Russia, the largest country in the world with the second largest military. Russia has been at the center of many historical frays and in recent years invaded Crimea. But what if Russia were to take further steps into Europe? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that looks to answer precisely those and more. Big questions, small questions, flights of fancy. We're here for it all. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and today I'm asking, what if Russia invaded Europe? Ooh, what a concept. Before we get into this video, I want you guys to let me know, if there was a World War III, what country do you think would be the most likely to start it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, but don't forget, play nice. It's just a question. Also, while you're down there leaving a comment, why don't you like this video and share it with a friend? And also check out the description box where we have links to all of the creative team's social media. Do stick around to the end of the video where I'm going to be reading some comments from a previous one. Okay, so Vladimir Putin makes a decision to invade Europe. Big mistake, right? Well, most likely, but before we get into the doom, gloom and booms, let's have a look at who might be drawn into the fray if Russia did push west. So at the moment, the EU consists of Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, the Republic of Cyprus, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, and the UK. Wow. Now we will get to the UK last as we know, it's pretty complicated. Primed and prepped for conflict, the key players here would be France, Germany and Italy, who are all major military nations. We can assume that the rest of the EU member nations would support a response, drawing them into the fray. Now the key nations here, outside of the big guns, are the border nations to Russia, so Finland, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. These would be key military zones. I can only assume, despite a more neutral leaning in the past, that Finland would join the fight and be another key nation. And of course there would be Sweden, who would likely call for a peaceful resolution but would be obligated to defend the EU. Of the non-member nations, I can only imagine the Ukraine would be first in line to join the fight against Russia given the history. Turkey would also be a very key player and a great country to have on the side of the EU. Turkey borders Asia and Europe and is the first access into Bulgaria and the West. Turkey wants to join the EU at the moment, and although the path has been a bit rocky, they would likely be granted access if they helped fight this war. So, what about the UK? After Brexit, would the UK join the fight against Russia? Of course they would. Despite leaving the European Union, the UK is still part of Europe geographically, and its neighbours are its allies. The UK would be a very key addition too. Not only does it have a fantastic naval fleet, it also has nuclear weapons, although we're gonna save nukes for later in this video. Now for Team America World Police. Would they get involved? Of course they would. Europe and the US are allies, and also Russia has loads of oil, so you know. What about Russia then? Would they go it alone? It is likely that China would call for peace without wanting to lay all of its cards on the table just yet. China probably has more sense than to fight Europe, although I do wonder, what with the rest of the world distracted, who would be watching North Korea? Where would Saudi and the Middle East stand in the conflict? While an allied Europe and Russia could in theory be an equal match, or a match that Europe would win if the States joined, I wonder if Russia may have an advantage of being one centrally organized superpower against a collection of other countries who need to work together for victory. Perhaps it would try and divide and conquer. So if we're literally talking a land invasion, then I assume it would start with Russia breaching further into the Ukraine or playing about at its borders. Assuming all NATO talks and calls for peace broke down, I assume that Russia would split their military personnel of 1 million soldiers and lead invasions through the Ukraine and Poland, with soldiers surrounding the rest of their western borders, especially Azerbaijan and Georgia if Turkey were on the side of the Europeans. Geographically, issues like the Polish forest and the European Alps would make a full sweep nigh on impossible, but the Russians could gain some traction. The Russian and European military are quite evenly matched, with Europe having a slight upper hand. Europe have a high defense budget and a bigger air force, a greater naval presence and equally impressive tanks. This is without Americans' assistance too, but do you know what Russia does have? Nukes. That's right, if we are no longer talking a land invasion and we are now in the business of discussing nuclear weaponry, then Russia, as Putin has boasted on many an occasion, can destroy all of its neighbours at the drop of a hat. With the combined nuclear force of France and the United Kingdom, Europe has under 6 600 nukes. Russia, on the other hand, has over 7,000, including the biggest nuclear weapon known to man, the Tsar bomber, which could obliterate an area the size of central London, or Berlin, or Paris. With the United States involved, then the fight is in Europe's favour again. But does anybody win when things turn nuclear? I am sure that the world would avoid it at all costs, but if it did happen, millions would die and millions more would get sick from the nuclear fallout, and what's the point really? Let's not forget that Russia has actually invaded Europe. In 2014, Russia invaded the Ukraine and the West didn't do too much about it. NATO did send forces to the neighbouring countries of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Poland, signifying that any further aggression would be met with military force. But perhaps Russia would be sneaky. Perhaps they would invade Europe bit by bit, although why would they need to with the landmass they already have? It would be nonsensical. Russia wants to remain strong and to weaken its enemies, not own their land. It has enough. More likely, Russia would try and invade Europe, so to speak, with cyber attacks and espionage. So, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Hopefully, Russia wouldn't risk further aggression. This is one scenario, but who knows what would really happen if this went from a question to a real turn in history. Hopefully, it never will. Well, this seems like a great place to end the video. What do you guys think would happen if Russia invaded Europe? Do let me know in the comments section down below. Also, don't forget to let me know who you think would be the instigator of World War III should it so happen. Just before I get out of here, I'm gonna read some quick comments from What If the Cold War Didn't Happen? The one guy named Fuzzy said, what if Mexico never gained independence? Very interesting question. Also related, Gustavo Corneo said, what if Mexico got back New Mexico? Ooh. We had some choice words from Kim Jong-un, who is all up in the comments section. He said, then no Korean War and no best Korea. Oh, Kim, best Korea. Wow. So guys, don't forget to leave a comment on this video for your chance to be featured in a forthcoming episode of Life's Biggest Questions. I'm your host, Rebecca Felgate. I'll catch you in the next video, but until then, stay curious, stay alert, and never ever stop questioning.